Hi, I'm Rick Stivers with YoungMartin'sReels, and today I faced a bit of a dilemma. I couldn't decide whether to work on this Hedden 120 that I picked up recently at an estate sale, or if I wanted to work on this Shakespeare Wonder Spin number 1780. And this is considered an open face reel, even though it looks very similar to this spin cast reel. And I've decided to break new ground for myself today, and we're going to venture on into this Shakespeare Wonder cast. The interesting part of this is it's designed like a regular open face reel, where it hangs upside down on your pole. All right, like that, like an open face spinning reel is. It just looks different from an open face spinning reel, but the function is very similar. When you wind it in, you'll rotate the handle as normal, like this. But when you want to go to cast, instead of having a bail to flip, you take the handle and you rotate it back a quarter of a turn, like that. See how this turns this? And to be perfectly honest, I have no idea how this reel works inside, so we're going to take it apart. I think I'm going to take it apart and see if we can figure it out, clean it. It needs to be cleaned up inside, and see what we can do with it. So the video may end up being a little bit choppy because, like I said, I've never done anything like this before. This is all new ground for me, and for some of you it may be also. So here we go. Let's start off. I would think that we would want to take the handle off first, but I think maybe here. I know that this outside housing here, even though it was jammed when I got it, it's got a ratcheting piece here that locks into these little teeth along here, but I have managed to get that broken loose. I did that the other day, trying to figure out what was going on with it, and that's as far as I have taken this apart so far. Okay, it has this felt piece, which I believe is supposed to be glued in right there. So I think we may end up coming back and gluing that in, or we may just let it hold itself in. Once it's screwed down tight, it doesn't go anywhere. But we're going to take that out of there for the moment so that we can scrub this up, get it cleaned. That's one part off. Now let's see if we can take the spinner head off. Okay, we take the nut off. The head comes off. There's no washer on top. Okay. All right. This seems a lot like inside. Got a bar. Yeah, this is very similar to the inside of the South Bend 700 that I worked on. It's even got the same drag assembly here with this little felt piece. Although this is supposed to be, I believe, rotated around to the outside. I don't think it's supposed to be this far to the inside. That would cause it to go here and onto these pieces. And I think, yeah, let's move that around. There. You see how I've moved that drag piece out to the outside edge? I think that's where it's supposed to be. Because it's smooth out there, it gives it something to ride on. In here, it would be riding in all those holes. Alright, so we're going to scrub that up and clean it. And then what do we, okay, the spool comes off. Oh, the line is in terrible condition, all tied up in knots. That'll take a while to clean off. Okay, and what do we have here? The spring holds. Alright, that's our drag clicker. And see, the spring assembly here, its purpose in life is to lock into these little teeth, like I showed you earlier. Alright, so that's got these pieces off. Alright, so far it's nothing that's overly complicated. All of this will be fairly easy to clean. I do know from working on the South Bend 700 that this shaft right here, you do not want to try to pull this pin out. Leave it in. I believe that this assembly is probably going to come out. I imagine there's a crosswind block inside here. So we're going to find out here in just a minute. let's go ahead at this point and go ahead and take the screw off. Okay, we got a nut, we have a star washer and the handle. All right, nothing else there. I believe that's the anti-reverse. We'll find out in just a second when we get it open. There's many, many years of grease and dirt caked up inside the slot on this screw. Let's turn this so you can see it. Can you see it there? Let's zoom in a little bit. I need to remember to zoom back out when we get that far. All right, clean the grease out of the groove. There we go. Make sure that your screwdriver fits the head of the screw properly. If it doesn't, you can really damage these screws pretty quickly. And they're not very big, so. Okay, let's take the cover off. All right, and our main gear just fell inside. Wow, that's a different anti-reverse. Okay. It is merely, oh, look at that chunk of grease in there. I don't know what else is in there. There's something else here besides grease. This is a, I don't know if any of that's working right now. I believe what we have here, let's see if we can see it, get this in the picture. All right, I think what we're dealing with is this plate right here. See the little bent hook? I believe, and we'll verify it here in a little bit. I believe what's happening is that is our anti-reverse. And when this is installed, nope, that is not the case at all. It has nothing to do with this gear. Because they do not meet up. All right, so, all right, there we go. There's our anti-reverse right there. See this cog right here? This lever sits down in that and it moves it into and out of that gear assembly right there. All right, let's put a little more light on this. All right, did that help us see just a little bit better? All right, so this is our anti-reverse pawl right here. And that plate right there, that plate right there will take and sit in this lever and it will move it back and forth. Now the question is, what does it take to remove this gear and get it out of here? I'm going to assume that there is a C-clip right here, but I don't think we're going to know that until we do a little bit of scrubbing. Well, it looks like there should be a C-clip right there, but it doesn't appear to be a C-clip. It's almost as though they installed a cap that they wedged on. I think that's what they've done. I think they've wedged a cap in there. And with that cap in place, you're not going to be able to get that off because it's switched on. So does that leave us anything on this side we can take off? All right, so what that leaves us with is a main axle shaft here that so far I don't know how to remove, and I don't see any way to get it removed. And also, because of the fact that there is nothing currently wrong with it, I'm thinking we're going to leave it. And in the event that somebody can come back one day and tell me how to remove that without being destructive to it, I think we're going to leave it alone. Let's go ahead, scrub that part up, scrub this part up, take a good look at everything, because there's no damage in here whatsoever. Everything is in excellent condition. And I would hate to break a perfectly good reel just for my own desire to try to take it apart. I did learn a few things from my childhood, not much, but that's one of the things I did learn was don't break it taking it apart just to see how it works. It's great if you can take something apart, see how it works, and put it right back together again. But if it doesn't do that, if you can't do that, don't damage it trying to take it apart. So we're not going to. And if somebody wants to drop me a comment or a line telling me how they know that this comes off, hey, I'll be happy to come back and reshoot the video on this, because I'm always really happy to learn something new or teach somebody something new. I will say this, somebody sprayed this thing with a bunch of white lithium grease, and I am not even remotely a fan of white lithium grease. I have never seen it do a whole lot of good for anything. All I've ever known it to do is dry everything up, gum things up. But we're going to scrub these parts up and see if we can't get this thing up and running again. I am going to, off camera, strip the line out of this spool because it's so nasty looking. There's no way we're ever going to get that untangled enough to be able to test a drag, if this thing has a drag. And so far, I don't think it does. I think it's a dragless reel. So I'm going to scrub each of these parts. I'm going to douse them down in alcohol in my alcohol tank. Okay, we've got all the parts scrubbed up, or reasonably scrubbed up. I've got a little exterior cleaning I think left to do in the end, but for now I think we're okay. As I said before, I have no idea how to remove that center shaft out of there. You know what? I have an idea. Let me try something first. Nope. I thought maybe the whole thing assembly would screw off, and it might, but I'm afraid of damaging it. Alright, without using extreme force, I did try to unscrew this assembly off of here, and it does not unscrew, so we're going to leave it off, or alone. And we're going to oil this up, because I'm afraid grease is not going to get down in there adequately. So, we are going to go ahead and oil this front bushing assembly. I'm going to flood it with oil, and spin it around a bit, give the oil a chance to get down in there. Alright, with that done, we're going to go ahead and grease the pinion gear and the anti-reverse ratchet assembly. And we don't want to get quite that much grease in there, but we do want it well greased. Alright, with that done, let's go ahead and put some grease on this side plate on each side of this anti-reverse switch, and then slide the reverse switch back into position like this. That way it should rather easily flip back and forth, which it now does. Before it took a lot of force to get it to move. Alright, so we've got that done. Next we're going to put oil on the shaft where it goes into the side gear here, or side plate. Slide it in. There we go. It spins beautifully. And now we'll come back and grease the teeth of the gear on the main gear. And again, remember, we don't have to grease every single thing in here, just the things that are going to mesh together. All that grease that was in the middle there last time was totally unnecessary. It wasn't accomplishing anything. And one more little batch of grease, and that should finish up the main gear. Now, to hold that in place while we install it, we're going to go ahead and install the handle. So that'll hold the gear on while we slide it in. Remember when we took the side plate off and the gear fell down inside? Well, we don't want that to happen, so while we're trying to install it, so we're going to go ahead and install the handle just loosely. It doesn't, just enough to keep it from falling out of the side plate. With that done, we're now going to put it in, but we've got to make sure that that notch right here, or this plate, falls into that notch on the anti-reverse. If we have that in the right location, then once we put these screws in, at least 2 of them, we should be able to activate the anti-reverse and it should work. Okay, no anti-reverse. Flip the switch, and we now have anti-reverse. Okay, let's go ahead and put the last screw in. Remember, these screws should be snug, but they should not be super tight. That's how you break things. Interesting. If the anti-reverse is engaged, I don't see any way that you're going to be able to release the spool, go into free release for casting. So you would have to flip it off. Okay, well, that's interesting. Now, I ran out of 4-pound test line. I put everything I had on this reel, and we'll just have to leave it at that. Put just a little grease on the inside of the spool. This thing does have a drag. I still haven't figured out how it works yet, but it does have a drag because it's got the drag pawl here. So it makes the clicking sound. Like that when it's pulled. But I don't understand yet how it operates as far as being able to tighten it, unless it's just a preset drag and it's just the way it is, you can't change it. And I think that must be the way it is. Okay. We're going to put a drop of oil here. We're going to flood this bearing or bushing with oil. Okay, we now have grease up in here, and that should be enough for this to operate back and forth. Just slide it down on there. And so far it's not engaged. There we go. Now it's engaged. Put the nut back on. Tighten it down. Pull some line out. Slide it through. Well, let's go ahead. Like I said, I'm not going to glue this in. I'm going to go ahead and just sit it in. Alright. Then put the string through this assembly. Alright, now you have to, let me show you. Here's our pawl here that grabs the line. Now we are going to have to make sure that it's reversed in order for that to disengage. And right now it's not going in, even if I reverse it. There it goes. There it goes. Alright, with that engaged, now we can slide this piece on in. And you're going to have to leave it engaged while you slip this piece over. Make sure that your line is not trapped. Make sure that this felt washer is where it belongs. And then, because these are super fine threads, make sure that you have this cap exactly straight. Matter of fact, let's add a little oil to that, because we don't want to gall those threads. There we go. Starting to, and you'll know when it's starting nicely because it'll just gently screw on. And you can feel this clicker down here as it starts to engage these ratchets down here. Alright. Alright, that goes, and that releases it to cast. And then you wind it. If you've got the anti-reverse engaged, okay, if anti-reverse is engaged, as I said before, you cannot rotate the handle backwards to disengage this reel to cast. So each time, if you want to use the anti-reverse, each time you go to cast, you have to flip it off, then reverse it, and that will remove your line. And that's something. And that didn't disengage. There, that did. I'm going to do a second video on this because what I want to do is I'm going to get myself some 4-pound test line, load this thing up, and I want to take it out and try it out at the lake or the creek or wherever I've got a chance to fish it. This is a very different reel than anything I have ever encountered. Well, short of the South Bend 700. It's very obvious to me why they don't make reels like this anymore. But I'd like to see how it fishes, see if it casts well. Once you go through all the gyrations of anti-reverse on, anti-reverse off, back pedal, that's all quite entertaining. I hope you guys have enjoyed this reel as much as I have. I think it's a fascinating reel. I just can't wait to put some 4-pound test line on it and take it out to the fish it. At least throw it a few times. Even if I just throw it in the yard a few times, this thing is fascinating to me. I hope you guys have enjoyed this as much as I have. If you like it, hit the like button. If you dislike it, well, that's fine. Hit the dislike button and let me know why you dislike it. But there you go. This is the Shakespeare number 1780 Wonder Spin fishing reel. It is considered an open face reel. Has no bail. it is definitely an oddball reel from my point of view. I'm glad that the fishing industry, I think, didn't continue to go this way. But Shakespeare at one time felt the need to produce this reel. Somebody thought this was a good idea. And there you have it. I don't know that I'll ever let go of this one just because I find it so unusual. Okay, just when I thought it was safe to go back in the water, I found something new out about this reel. Remember I told you about the drag in there, and I didn't understand this outside spool so much and what it did. Well, apparently, as you tighten this down, it tightens the drag. If you loosen this outer ring, it loosens the drag. As you tighten it, it makes the drag tighter and tighter. That's what that felt washer is in there. That's your drag, or your pressure for your drag. Isn't that entertaining? So there you have it, folks. One last thing to add. Anyway, this is Rick Stivers with Young Martin's Reels signing out. Thank you.